What is up, basketball fans? Opening night of the NBA season finally here. A classic double
Oh
header to
my
start the
lord.
season. We have Nets, we have Bucks. Then the late night, we have Lakers, we have Golden State Warriors. A little Steph LeBron action. Whew! It feels like it's been a bit, but it also feels like it was just yesterday that we were covering the NBA Finals. Jake, basketball is back. The NBA is back. A great doubleheader tonight. How are we feeling?
Oh man, bro. It's been such a good just such a good day. Just looking forward to this. We got just get catching up on all the previews. Just it feels like the first real NBA season we've had in so long, bro. I know that
Yeah.
we've touched on this so many times, and so I don't want to beat it to death, but we started this whole thing, this whole happy hour hoops when the bubble was going on, the most bizarre basketball experience of everybody's life, and then covered our whole first full season with no fans, dealing with COVID outbreaks every week. Like it was a different
Yeah.
something different every week, man. Like it was just like never in my I'm about to turn 25 next month. In my 24 years of my life, did I never expect my first season working with a nice, wonderful outlet such as Trainwreck Sports, doing this podcast with you, Donnie, that I expect to deal with such a crazy ass season. So
Yeah.
I'm happy that this feels like some normalcy. It's the 75th anniversary. We get the first 25 players announced tonight. That's going to be exciting. There's going to be fans back in the stands in Milwaukee for the banner raising, fans back in Staples, full crowd expected there for Lakers Warriors. So I'm excited, man. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm crazy excited for this. I'm very eager, of course, to watch my Boston Celtics tomorrow night.
Mm,
But I mean, this you can't really beat the doubleheader here, and you hit the nail on the head, dude. Like it just hopefully this will have some normal, some normal feels to it tonight when
for
we
sure.
get back there. We don't have to have the weird anticipations about is there going to be fans because we know there will be.
Hmm.
Hopefully, a lot less COVID outbreaks this year, a lot less players missing time. Obviously, vaccination helps with that. And yeah, I'm just ready to get back to it. And this is something we've touched on a couple times over the summer, waiting for this season to come around. Is one of my favorite things about the first week is something you talk about with 2K. It's just seeing all the new faces
Yeah.
on new teams and getting used to the role players who weren't on other squads before but are now there.
Hmm.
Just all the exciting stuff that we're used to in normal opening nights of the NBA season. Like you said, big one for the NBA, 75. So yeah, I mean it should be a very exciting night of basketball, and I'm hoping the same for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, for sure. So let's just get right into it. We got
Let's
our
do it.
opening
Dive
matchup
in.
tonight. The Brooklyn Nets
Mm,
at the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks currently 1.5 point favorites, over under 233 and a half. That's a huge number for this game.
yeah.
But let's just touch on the teams themselves to start here, Dunny. Let's start with the easy team. Let's start with the Milwaukee Bucks, the defending
Yep.
champions. Giannis reached another level last year in the playoffs. I think he was already obviously well renowned in the NBA circles, but I think he solidified his spot, quieted any doubters that he had in his NBA Finals run, putting on some historic performances to lead the Bucks to their first title in 50 years. So, Dunny, what are you expecting from the Bucks this season? You think that they just kind of carry this momentum, or do you see, we've seen sometimes these title teams with a lull to start the season. What are you expecting for them? They coming out hot, or are they gonna be a little sluggish to come out?
I think they're coming out hot. I think you have a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo. He kind of always brings the heat, always brings the fire anyway. And then you
Mm,
have a guy like him fresh off a championship. I don't know, man. I think nothing but gas from this Milwaukee Bucks team to start the season, and I'm just excited. Like I mentioned, new role players on teams, and this is a team who didn't lose much and kind of brought in some interesting guys, and starting with Grayson Allen, I think he kind of almost is a very similar player to Pat Connaughton, who fits very well on this Bucks team.
yeah.
a guy that I think both of us are excited to see back on this team is Dante DiVincenzo, who didn't get a lot of run with this team last year. I think he can make a big impact. Guy like Rodney Hood. My guy Semi Ojeleye, the Giannis stopper, is on Giannis's team now. So yeah, I think a lot of excitement coming from this Bucks team, and I think the returning players. I don't see a slow start for this group. It doesn't really seem like this group's DNA has a slow start in them. I think nothing but fire from the Bucks tonight, and probably the rest of the season. I did take them as an early favorite to win the NBA championship. On our betting futures episode, I liked them just because of all the things I just said. Returning a lot of the same championship team. Giannis still has that fire. We saw what Drew and Middleton did last year. Should be great.
Yeah, I think that I'm in full agreement with you here. I think they're coming out swinging. I think this is a team that could go on like a huge run this year, like a 15 plus game win streak. I just think we've seen them built for the regular season for the last 3 years to begin with. I mean, they've torn through the regular season, and now they just have it's just a new confidence. I mean, look at the way. I think the best example is looking at the way Middleton and Holiday played after the finals, going right overseas and playing in the Olympics, and just how much of an impact they both had on that team. Like, they were two of their best players every single night in, night out, coming off that grueling grind. I just feel like those two especially are the key. I mean, Giannis is going to get he's going to be incredible, MVP candidate, all that. But those two, the reason they went out and traded for Drew Holiday was to do what they did last year and win a title. And he came through in the biggest moments for them. And I think they kind of figured out how to play off of each other a little bit better as the season went on, especially into the playoffs. And I just think this team is really well built for the regular season, and with a new confidence going forward that they know that they can win a title and have won the title, and going into a normal year. I mean, that place is going to be rocking in Milwaukee tonight and for the rest of the year. Giannis has just has gotten to a new level of stature among his peers in the league right now and among NBA history. I think he knows that too. I think that's the most important part, is he's finally realizing like how impactful he can really be on a night to night, and adding things to his game. I mean, we'll see tonight how true his shooting form from the preseason has been, if he's going to pull that out against Brooklyn or not. But if he's hitting those kinds of shots, it's game over. Like it's just going to be a runaway. And I did my finals predictions earlier. We'll get to ours at the end. We'll get to them at the end of the pod here. We'll throw our finals predictions in, but I didn't put the Bucks, and that was my biggest regret. That could be my biggest regret going forward, is not including them, because they might just be head and shoulders above everybody in the league by the time we're all said and done. I think they have the biggest potential to do that, besides the team they are playing here tonight, the Brooklyn Nets. And and we've talked about it multiple times, but we're just a foot away, and maybe some injuries away in that series from us talking about the banner being raised in Brooklyn tonight with Milwaukee visiting there. I mean, that's really how close it was. That's how good those two teams were last year. So what are you expecting from Brooklyn, aside from Kyrie Irving, who we know is not going to be there tonight, not going to be there for the foreseeable future? This is still, without Irving, one of the best rosters in the league, and it starts with Kevin Durant and James Harden.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I actually had a conversation with my mom the other night, 'cause she was just kind of asking me to, catch her up on the whole Kyrie situation and what I thought of them if Kyrie wasn't going to play. And I had to explain to her that, Kevin Durant is one of, or in my opinion, the best player in the world. And then you have a, all-time future Hall of Famer, one of the best scorers this game's ever seen, in James Harden. And that was kind of the extent of the conversation. It's like, look, these guys, whether Kyrie plays or not, are going to be just fine. And I feel like if I say something like that, I do have to acknowledge that obviously I think they would, have a leg up if you do have a guy like Kyrie Irving sticking around. He is playing with them. But, I mean, they just kind of built this roster this offseason and already have those two juggernauts in KD and Harden, where they should be quite fine. They'll probably, they're going to be hanging around, if not win this game tonight. And then, that's going to be the expectation. The expectation of this team is still championship caliber. It should still be championship or bust like last year, whether Kyrie's there or not. And we talked about how the Bucks kind of looked like a returning team, and for the most part will look pretty similar. Without Kyrie tonight and the foreseeable future, I want to see what this new look Brooklyn Nets does, because where they do have a lot of the same players, we didn't really see LaMarcus Aldridge with this group last year. His heart's feeling fine now. He's back with the team. You bring in a guy like DeAndre Bembry, who is a great perimeter defender, which I think they kind of lacked last year. Who else they bring in? Paul Millsap, who's just an unbelievable.
That's a key move for that man. Yeah, that's huge.
He's such a gifted stretch four. He's played for so long in this league. He's played with great teams. He played with bad teams. He's an unbelievable post scorer. He can stretch the floor. Patty Mills, I think, is the most exciting piece that they brought into this team. He's going to fill in greatly when Kyrie Irving's not there, or if he never shows up. Patty Mills is a guy who can get buckets, and Cam Thomas, who, I feel like I've been preaching this dude's name, went off in the summer league. He's had it, he had some highlight moments in the preseason. He was an unbelievable player at LSU. So, that they're kind of good in the guard position, and it's going to, I think the last taste of the Brooklyn Nets that people have in their mouth is when they were eliminated in the playoffs. And that team that got eliminated is going to look a lot different than the team that is taking the court tonight. Yeah. This team is, trust me, a lot better than that squad that we saw.
I'm very excited to see what they can do after a whole year, a whole off season, and a fully healthy James Harden going into this year. Because, Harden came in after the trade, obviously, and then none of them were ever really healthy together the whole season. We know that was the case. But Harden and Durant on the floor together is just it's overwhelming for defenses, and especially Harden running the point like he was last year, and Irving was kind of the de facto two guard. I would assume that's going to be the same structure this year. I'm interested to see how Durant was basically the center last year at some point by the end of the year playing with Blake. Blake was the center, but Durant's the 7-footer. He's the big guy in the middle doing everything. But now they have that big man rotation around him with Griffin, with Aldridge, with Millsap, 3 veterans who have size, who can play, who are smart defensively, who are going to be able to get buckets. And I'm just interested to see kind of how that rotation plays out, how they kind of match those minutes up, where they play Durant. Are they going to play could we see a lineup that I'm very interested in seeing is one of those 3 centers, Durant, Harden, Patty Mills, and maybe Bruce Brown or something like that. Or you have 2 of those guys because you have Durant and Harden, and they just change the trajectory of the floor, and just, they're gonna be where everybody gravitates to. You put Mills out there, and then you have, maybe Aldridge and Griffin or Aldridge and Millsap or something like that. I think they can get creative with the bigs now, which is not something that they were able to do last year at all. They were pretty thin at big all year long. They didn't want to play DeAndre Jordan ever, and he rarely saw the floor. They relied a lot on Nick Claxton. I wanted to see, that kind of what his role would be and everything like that. So it's just a different look from that big rotation. But I think the depth that they have now and the options that they have, especially when you have a guy like Durant, is really interesting. So what do you got to say here, Donnie?
Yeah, so apparently we're going to be seeing a bit of Nick Claxton tonight, because I just went to Brooklyn Nets Twitter as we were talking. He's in the starting lineup, man. And I don't know if this is what we would, at least certainly I wouldn't have guessed the starting lineup. James Harden at point, Joe Harris at 2, KD at the small forward, Blake Griffin at power forward, and Claxton at 5.
So exactly that. They have that big rotation now, and it takes that pressure off of Durant to really have to guard interior players. At least for the regular season, beginning of the year, whatever. That's a weapon you can deploy when you need to. But I really like that rotation. I wasn't even thinking about Joe Harris. I forgot he was on the team for a second there when I was walking through.
Yeah. And that's something I want to mention too. You would have to expect, and if you're a Brooklyn Nets fan, hope that Joe Harris has a better season than he did last year, because I think, and this is kind of going just off the top of my head here. I don't have the stats in front of me, but if I were to guess, especially postseason, that was the worst shooting of Joe Harris's career, because that dude was just missing shots when he was really the, the third or second options at time when they were banged up and KD was literally carrying this team. Joe Harris was not doing him any favors in that Milwaukee series. He was missing a lot of open looks. They paid this guy a lot of money last offseason. And, I think he'll get it back on track. He's a great NBA player. But, I mean, if we're talking about guys we're looking at on this new look Nets team, how about, look to a guy who was there last year and hopefully he steps up. And apparently they're doing that with Nick Claxton because this dude's in the starting lineup. Real diverse starting five that the Brooklyn Nets are throwing out there tonight. And, yeah, I think it'll be interesting. You mentioned now they have this depth. And, last year it was like, okay, how many minutes can you play Griffin? This year it's like Griffin and another bigger in the starting lineup, and then you have Millsap and Aldridge coming off the bench. Like, whew, talk about depth on a scary roster.
That's for sure. All right, so for tonight, who you got? Brooklyn is plus 1.5 here. Let's just do it straight up. Who do you have tonight? What's the score? And yeah, just go with that.
Ooh. I actually do kind of like Brooklyn here tonight.
Yeah.
I got Brooklyn 117, 112 for Brooklyn. Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of what I was kind of just alluding to is like, I don't think people are ready for this new look Nets team, even though the core didn't change all that much. I think you have a motivated Kevin Durant.
Very much
James
so,
Harden.
yeah.
James Harden's going to be James Harden. I mean, he's going to get his. He's going to get guys involved. He's coming out playing the point tonight. No Kyrie Irving, so these two guys are kind of just going to go free reign and maybe come out and hit the Bucks in the mouth a little bit. I told you I don't think that we'll see a slow start from the Bucks, but that doesn't mean that I don't think the Brooklyn Nets will be on fire just as much. So I'm going Brooklyn here tonight.
Yeah, I'm going Brooklyn too. I just see in my mind right now like a huge run from Brooklyn, KD and Harden celebrating, going over to the sidelines. I see that happening a lot. I think it's going to be a close game though. I mean, these teams only put on close games. Like, what did it end up? It was decided by like a point, I think, or a couple points. But when they had a 7-game series last year, it was a very small margin what they ended up in the series. I think we stay with that. So I'm going to go, they're going to hit the over. So let's go with 124-120 Brooklyn victory in Milwaukee. Let's get into the late game then. We've got the Golden State Warriors traveling to take on the very new look Los Angeles Lakers in LA. Lakers heavy favorites in the West. One of the favorites to win the title. Dunny, should the Lakers be one of the favorites to win the NBA title this year?
Yeah. I mean, yes, they should. I feel like you can't glance up and down that roster full of Hall of Famers and say no, regardless of age, what we're talking about, guys like Carmelo Anthony, LeBron James, Dwight Howard, Rajon Rondo. And this is not really a big deal for tonight or even moving forward that much because I don't think it's a guy who's going to log many minutes. But they did re-sign picked up Avery Bradley off waivers, and he's a part of this team again. He was on a part of that championship squad in the bubble there. So, a lot of old heads on this team, and I know that's what some people see as a flaw for the Brooklyn Nets. But I mean, come on, man. Russ, AD, and LeBron, if those guys are healthy, they're calling themselves 360 now because that's the combination, all their numbers. They got a cool nickname. They got
corny-ass LeBron shit.
Yeah, that was for sure his idea, dude. Dude, now every Instagram post he posts this year is going to be hashtag 360 at the end of it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, regardless of, the weird nicknames or whatever, that big three is, a force to be reckoned with. So for sure they have to be up there if we're talking about title favorites. They got a scary roster. If this team stays healthy, that they should be on their way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're just going to be too talented for a lot of these games, especially in the regular. This is that can sluggish throughout the year and have some slow spots, especially at the beginning of the year. The mix is what they really have to figure out what the right combination of guys is, what their lineups are going to be. I know it's just the preseason, but they were 0-6 in the preseason. They looked pretty fucking terrible in some of those games. And then it's just, you shouldn't count a lot into it. There was a lot of pieces missing in and out of every game, but the defense didn't look particularly strong, and they haven't figured out their lineup mix yet. So I'm really, as much as I'm interested to see the Brooklyn lineups and what we were talking about earlier with them, I'm way more interested to see what the Laker lineups look like tonight. Like what
me too.
I don't think we're getting Davis at the 5 to start the season like they said. So they've already gone back on AD being starting at the 5. That's more to do with Ariza not playing tonight, and just because I think he slots into that starting lineup.
Ariza, dude.
Yeah, I know Ariza, bro. Who knows about him? So I think that we'll see AD and Dwight probably at the top of the lineup there with Bron, Westbrook, and then maybe Talen. The report earlier I saw today was that Talen Horton-Tucker might be in the starting lineup. So they've got a lot of options for that 2 guard. That's really the most important position for them, because they need somebody that can shoot and they need somebody that can defend at a high rate, because Russell Westbrook's a very active defender, but there are times where he's just a sieve as a defender. He's going to need somebody next to him that can guard, at a plus level at least. LeBron was very good defensively last year, but the last couple of years he's been, hit or miss depending on the metrics you looked at and everything else. AD is obviously a tank defensively, one of the best defensive players in the league. So he solves a lot of problems for them, but I'm just more, the guard rotation for them is the exact opposite of Brooklyn. I'm interested to see how Brooklyn's big rotation looks. I'm interested to see how the Lakers guard rotation looks, and how they deploy Russ and LeBron, if they even are on the floor that much together. Maybe it's just like 12 minutes or 14 minutes a game or something, and then they try to stagger them, because I think that they would be better opposite of each other and kind of giving LeBron those breaks. With, the biggest thing about when LeBron goes off the floor with them last year was just how terrible they were. I mean, they were one of the worst teams in the league when LeBron left the floor. So having a guy like Russ who can run that offense and initiate it, like we've seen him be able to do it. But the mix of those two on the floor, it's just it's so interesting to be able to see LeBron James and Russell Westbrook on the floor. I just don't know what to expect.
Yeah, and I like what you said there about like trying to just even have an idea of what this guard rotation is going to look like.
Yeah,
because I feel like we forget about a lot of the guards on this team. And I was kind of just looking for, an availability update on what the Lakers were looking like. And I found this article here. Like, I forgot they had Wayne Ellington.
Yeah.
Who is just a great shooter in this league. So, like, he's actually out for tonight's opener. But Kendrick Nunn, Malik Monk, Rondo, Avery Bradley,
Bazemore,
as I mentioned, Bazemore, Russ, obviously.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, they definitely have some flexibility, which I don't really think they had much of last year, whereas...
No, not at all.
At least flexibility that they could trust, you know what I mean? Like, they had guys they could throw out there. I mean, everyone does, but you're talking about some experienced players here, involved with some good shooters, involved with some, young guys who are still very athletic. And then you have Russell Westbrook, who's going to go down as one of the greatest point guards of all time. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the Brooklyn Nets, where they just have an embarrassment of riches, and we don't really know what to expect, but probably whatever we see is going to be great. And, yeah, I think this is something we can watch the whole season, but especially tonight, in a game against Steph Curry, like what is it going to look like with Russ and LeBron on the court at the same time, and how long of a stretch are they going to do that? And is it going to be a thing in teams we've seen do in the past, where they have two like just unbelievable stars, but they actually try to keep it stagnant with them throughout the game? So like we'll see LeBron come out and Russ do a big run with the bench guys, and then vice versa. Russ will come out of the game, LeBron will come back in. It's going to be really interesting to see how these two ball dominant stars play alongside one another.
Yeah, so let's get into it. You mentioned the man of the hour, the man of the night, Steph Curry. Steph Curry. I mean, this is like, I've come so far, man. I'm wearing this hat. This is not my finals prediction, but it is half of it, because I feel like during that run, everybody in Cleveland, Ohio just hated Steph Curry. And I was like the only Cavs fan that was like, I really, really like this guy. I really like watching him. And it's carried
I
through.
used to hate Steph Curry, dude.
I mean, everybody used to just be annoyed with him. And then it's just like, oh no, like this dude is actually just one of the best players we've ever seen. Yeah. And I think that's where it's come around for me with Steph. And so it's two of my two favorite players in the league going at it tonight. But I'm really interested to see what Steph looks like with these young guys. I mean, I want to see what Kuminga and Moody are going to do tonight. And maybe Klay's not back yet. So that's down the road. That'll be one of the most exciting moments of the year that we will get for this NBA season. But Steph did not have these kind of wings. It doesn't matter that they're rookies. I know that means that maybe their contributions won't be as high. Maybe they won't be able to have championship level contributions, playoff level contributions, but maybe they will, because they're not going to have to be asked to do a lot. It's not like these guys are going to be asked to come in and be dominant on the ball. Not like they're going to ask to come in and be efficient scorers. They're just going to have to cut, like the Warriors offense, cut to the rim, a lot of cuts, and play active defense. I think
screens,
exactly. And I think Kerr has probably just been telling them in practice, preseason, training camp, all of that you guys just need to be energetic defensively and energetic cutting to the ball. And those two are two of the best athletes I've seen coming out of the draft in the last couple years, especially Kuminga. I mean, Kuminga is one of the best athletes I've ever seen. And Moody's a great athlete, and he's a great 3-point shooter from the corner. And he's going to have those on the floor. And we're talking about that guard rotation for the Lakers. That's what we're worried about, because who can defend from that rotation? Like, I don't trust really any of those players to guard Steph. So Steph's going to have a lot of free reign tonight. And I'm really bullish on this Warriors team. I know that everybody is like, I feel like it's two opposite sides of the Warriors. Like, people either think they're title contenders or think they're super overrated and might miss the playoffs. I don't see how they can. I think they're so much better than they were last year, because what they were lacking, they went out and got, and we'll see how the rookies look, but I think that they're better than whatever they were throwing out last year. Wiggins isn't going to have a big role tonight, as he's still getting his conditioning back, and Draymond apparently still getting his conditioning back, won't have as big of a role tonight. So it'll be interesting to see how they rotate those young guys in, but they're definitely going to have a big role with those two guys not having as many minutes. So I'm most interested to see those guys. But what about you with the Warriors?
Yeah, well, and this was something that just came to mind. Like, I feel like so often when people are talking about, great players in the NBA, we love to bring up LeBron and how easy players say it is, and just, by the eye test, how easy we can see it is for players to play with a guy like LeBron. Yeah. And I feel like it doesn't, obviously the Steph stuff and the greatest shooter of all time, and we give Steph his flowers for sure, but I think that specifically doesn't get talked about enough, because where they're very different players to play with, I'm sure Steph makes it so easy to play with him, dude.
Oh yeah.
Like you just said, like you're setting down screens, you're moving around, like you're slashing to the hoop, you're basically just being a body.
And no one's paying attention to you.
Yeah, just move around if you're playing with Steph Curry, and he will make you better. And he also, something that doesn't get, enough credit when you're talking about Steph Curry, is his playmaking ability. Yeah. Like, yes, he shoots a lot. Yes, he can score when he's double teamed, but he'll find an open teammate, dude. Like, I don't know. I feel like we exhaust that with LeBron James, but for some reason Steph doesn't get that same thing. Like, another reason it's going to be so easy for Kuminga and Moody is because, I mean, they're playing with one of the best scorers, playmakers to ever do it. I mean, this guy is a show on the hardwood every night. And you mentioned these guys are a little bit more polished than other rookies that we've seen in years past, and they don't need to do all that much. There's not going to be much pressure on them, especially when we get to that point when Klay does come back. Yeah. And, the Splash Bros are there. Klay's spotting up in the corner. That's even less moving. That's even less thinking they have to do. They kind of just have to go out and be themselves and be physical rookies, which they both are, both athletically gifted, both, have great scoring ability. And then, you wait for Wiggins, you wait for Draymond to get, their legs back under them. Sure.
Yeah.
They brought back in the Finals MVP, Andre Iguodala, who clearly
100%.
Still has some left in the tank. Jordan Poole has been getting just an immense amount of hype in the preseason games. He's looking like he's going to be a great scorer for them. And I'm, call me crazy, dude. I'm still excited for James Wiseman. I don't think last year was enough to see from him. I think so many people around the league are already out on this guy. He's 20 years old.
20 years old
He's
and
20.
played like 4 college basketball games.
Yeah.
Before,
come on, man.
And then didn't get to play it all last year. I think Wiseman's going to have an impact this year as well. So what do you got for tonight then?
Ooh. I hate to do it after I say all that, but and only because I know you might be the opposite, but yeah, I'm going Lakers tonight. I just think I think LeBron's been sitting on way too many washed Kings posts, dude, and he's tired of posting the Instagrams. He wants to go out and show it. I think it's just going to be a little too much. I mean, we mentioned guys on the Warriors don't have their legs under them. Yes, we were just hyping up these guys, but 2 guys who are going to have significant roles on this team are rookies. They are a second-year, 20-year-old guy like Wiseman. They are a 22-year-old guard like Jordan Poole. I just think the experience of the Lakers, and I really think Russ is going to have a big impact on this game because we ask the question, like, who is going to guard Steph? I mean, most likely it's going to be Russ for a lot of the game. At least that's what I anticipate. I don't think they have bad blood necessarily, but I think Russ definitely hates losing to Steph Curry, as most people do. But it's a little extra for Russ because he lost to Steph Curry when, his ex-teammate was standing beside Steph, and he had to eat losses from Kevin Durant and Steph at the same time. He got shimmied on quite a few times. So, I think a very aggressive game from Russ tonight. And I think this Lakers team, they have something to prove, all those old heads over there.
Yeah, I like it. I think this is going to be a very, very close game. I think these are going to be 2 very exciting games. I think the universe has been nice to it, like sports universe. The NFL season's been fucking incredible. All these overtime games, close games, college football, fans back, has been an incredible season. One of the best seasons we've had in years. I think we're going to get that. The sports gods looking down on us, giving it to us with a basketball season. It starts tonight. We get a barn burner, a Steph Curry buzzer beater in Staples. 117-115 win for the Warriors. I'm worried about the Lakers. As I said, worried about their lineups and everything. I think that they are, but the young wings guarding LeBron James and Anthony Davis, like those 2 are going to have their way, but Steph's also going to have his way, and he'll come out on top just tonight. And, but maybe not just tonight, because let's get into it quick as we wrap up here on Trainwreck Sports. We'll have a first intermission report for the Sabres Dunny, you start. I put my picks out earlier, so I'll finish here. What is your NBA Finals pick?
I'm going Milwaukee Bucks, Los Angeles Lakers in the NBA Finals, and the Los Angeles Lakers are going to win.
Wow. You've got the Lakers over the Bucks. How many games? How many games are we talking here?
6.
Did you feel dirty saying that?
Yeah, I did. Very, actually. I didn't prepare for this at all. This was honestly kind of just off the dome here.
Off the dome.
I already hated it by saying Bucks instead of Celtics because I feel like I might as well if we're just going to do this. But no, I think Lakers win it in 6 if that's the finals.
All right. I love it. I would be very happy if that happened here. I already said my biggest regret was not including the Bucks in my East Finals, but I'm sticking to it. I had your Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals, though, so at least we're kind of getting there. We're almost there. I have the Brooklyn Nets beating the Golden State Warriors in the finals for the 2nd year in a row. Did it last year, doing it again. I'm just trying to will my Durant versus Curry finals into the universe. Awesome. And I think Brooklyn will win in 6 games over the Warriors. The Warriors also will beat the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. And that will be purely because Klay Thompson's going to come back and be a flamethrower and be old Klay Thompson. Trying to just bring all the goodness back into the world. That's all we need is the excitement of Warrior Land. All right. Let's not hold it anymore. We've got game. I think we'll be starting like 15 minutes or so. I don't know what the official tip time is with the dinner ceremony and everything. We're coming on. locked here on Trainwreck Sports for the Sabres first intermission pregame. It is currently a 1-1. Oh, nope, never mind. 2-1 Vancouver lead. That must have just happened in like the last 10 seconds. So stay locked here for that. We will be back at some point to talk NBA basketball, some real life, actual NBA basketball, fans in the stands, all that. Follow us at Happy Hour Hoops. No more predictions. It's time to get it rocking here. Follow us at Happy Hour Hoops, baby. All the real stuff, and our 2K games, which is just as real as anything else too. Because we're both. I don't know what's your record right now. What's the update? I'm 6-1. That's what I've got rocking right now.
I think I'm 11-3 online.
There we go. We're killing it.
We're cooking.
We're out here.
Making
and
people
if you guys
quit.
want to challenge us, let's see how it goes, because I promise you it won't go well. All right, let's wrap it up here. Enjoy the games. Let's see if our predictions are right tomorrow. Have a good one, folks.
Stay hydrated.